Growing up, I think many people liked peanut butter. Obviously, those that are allergic to it, that's one thing. But now peanut butter is being used as a term connected with the business world and with pay raises. Interesting combination, to say the least. We talk about it more with Peter Cappelli, who's a professor of management here at the Wharton School. Peter, I loved peanut butter growing up, but I think in the case of many people, they're not liking how peanut butter, the term, is being used right now.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we're probably talking about smooth rather than crunchy
Yes.
peanut
Right.
butter,
Yes. Yes.
right?
All right.
Important
So take
distinction.
us into this. The term peanut butter raise is kind of in the vernacular of companies right now in terms of the type
Yeah,
of pay raise that they're giving. Explain this.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's not actually not a new term. As I recall, it's maybe 20 years ago, I heard this term before. And the idea is if you have merit pay money to distribute, so our annual pay increases, the budget is 3% or 2%. It's been like that for a very
Yeah.
long time. Do we spread it equally about around to everybody? So everybody gets a 2% increase, or do we make it crunchy? So some people get 0 and some people get 6%, right? That's the question. And the peanut butter spread approach means we're going to basically give it to everybody equally or more or less equally.
So are these types of pay raises then considered to be fair when you're giving them to everybody and maybe somebody who has done more for the company is not getting as much or getting anything at all?
Yeah, I think it is the right question, and it is complicated by the fact that these increases are so modest, right? So they are this year going to be the average below the rate of inflation, right? So that means that if everybody got just the merit pay increase, they're all losing slightly to inflation. And so the question, one way to think of it is as you describe it, and you often hear executives say this, the best performers should get more. But how about those employees who are doing just what you're telling them to do? You got an office job, you don't have a lot of discretion over what you
Right.
do. Do you give them a 0? In which case, they're taking a 3% real income cut, right? Because inflation is at least 3% or
Yeah.
so. So the one fairness idea is to say, look, people who are doing fine at their job, they're doing okay, they're doing what we want them to do, they shouldn't get punished because they don't even have the opportunity to do more. But the other side is, as you say, we have some people in some jobs who are doing really well. Shouldn't they get more than inflation? But there's the rub. We don't have very much money to
All
spread
right,
around.
so let's look at this from the company's perspective for a second. Is there some dynamic within the company, whether it be philosophy, whether it be the bottom line during a quarter or during a fiscal year, where a company would trend to go one way or the other?
Well, I think at the moment in the US, because we're so concerned about inflation, the idea of really squeezing your employees, and that is, giving some of them 0% increases and the other folks so you can have more to distribute elsewhere, is likely to really get up the nose of employees,
Right.
right? And so, what you're thinking is if we differentiate a lot, is it really going to motivate our best performers to do a lot more? So we're going to give some people 0, some people 6%. And the answer might be maybe, but these increases are so modest, that it probably might not do an awful lot for them. And then on the other hand, you're thinking about the people who'd be irritated by taking a pay cut and they haven't sort of
Sure.
done anything
Right.
wrong. So I think the reason that this term has come up a lot now is the inclination, I think, for organizations to try to do more peanut butter spreading. But the folks at the top really don't like to do that. But the people at the bottom are telling them, hey, you got a lot of irritated employees if you don't.
Does the type of labor market that we have right now factor into these decisions being made in this direction?
Yeah, I mean, if we think the labor market is really soft, and I think it probably still is, although new data today coming out showing a big jump in job openings, so maybe it will change quickly. But you can squeeze your employees more in a down market. They can't quit. More important, they probably feel better about just having a job.
Right.
And you start to feel worse if you think there are lots more options around you. So you probably could squeeze them more if you wanted. Um, but then again, the question is squeezing them for what? And if it's to be able to demonstrate to your high performers that we really are paying attention to you and looking after you, maybe that is what they want to
I don't
do.
know if there's research about this, but I guess then the potential reaction of having this peanut butter spreading of pay raises is whether
Yeah.
or not the people at the higher end who have been more successful potentially look to go someplace else over the next 6 to 12 months because they feel like they have been undervalued to a degree.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think on the other hand, if we're thinking about this is the time you could squeeze your employees, that's also true for your high potential
Yeah.
employees, right? They don't have a lot of places to go right now, so you probably could squeeze them. But I think the complication is, who are you going to squeeze here, right? I mean, the problem is companies are allocating very little money to employees. And maybe a better way to do this is to try to rely more on bonuses as a way to increase people's motivation,
Yeah.
right?
Going back to somewhat of the beginning of the conversation, you said this has been around for a little while now. Is this
Yeah.
realistically a style that has been in play constantly through the last couple of decades, or is this kind of hit and miss depending on some of the dynamics in the economy?
Well, I guess we should say first, I'm not exactly sure what on average companies are doing right
Right.
now. The stories about peanut butter raises were kind of pejorative,
Right.
right? I mean, they weren't saying, "Oh, this is a great thing. We should all do it." So I think, the debate has been around forever. I think you would have seen a decade or two decades or so ago, much more concerned about trying to treat everybody kind of
Mhm.
fairly. And, since in the last generation or so, much more concerned about trying to differentiate employment broadly and rewards in particular. But then we come back to this issue of, um, if your jobs aren't allowing you to do very much that's creative and we're just asking you to do regular office work, why shouldn't you get at least the average
Right.
pay, right?
Exactly.
You have anything
Yeah.
different, right?
Peter, thanks very much for your time today. Wish you all the best. And thanks again for spending a few moments. Peter Cappelli, Management Professor here at the Wharton School.